Hello, so today we're going to learn how to go from this to this. I'd like to send a shout out to Thermaltake for making such quality products. Without them this wouldn't be possible. And yes guys, that is a hefty amount of sarcasm because this problem not easy to fix. So before we get into this, I would like to say I personally hate how to fix video with, insert the blank, and then they spend 35 minutes rambling and then actually get to the fix in the last 30 seconds. I am going to try and avoid doing that for this video, but unfortunately this is not the simplest fix. So I'll show you a fast version and then I'll show you a longer version that will save your mental sanity after that. So, a little bit of backstory first. These are 6 ring quad trio fans connected to 2 controllers in my system. The controllers are daisy chained and then they run into an internal USB header. This is an AMD computer, and I believe this problem is more prevalent with AMD computers as the internal USB headers run through the chipset, and I think it's an incompatibility with the chipset. I think that is the root cause of the problem. I could possibly be wrong, but I think I'm right on this one. Now, as it stands, everything on my computer is currently working. Now, what will happen if it's not working is one of the devices will fail to start. And you can find that device by going into Device Manager, Human Interface Devices, and then it will be one of these USB input devices. They'll have a little icon on them, and then if you go into it, instead of saying this device is working properly, it'll say there was an error, the device couldn't start. Now, the quick fix for your fans is you right click on the device, you disable the device, you right click on the device, and you enable the device, and that will fix it. There's no point in me doing that right now as this one's already working. That will bring your fans back until the problem happens again, which is generally when you put your computer into standby or potentially just boot up and it decides, hey, I'm not going to work because I'm made by Thermaltake and I'm a piece of shit. So here's the one, or the way I came to fix the problem, that is a little bit more lengthy, but bear with me, it will save your mental sanity. So I basically turned to PowerShell to fix this issue. So I've got a little PowerShell window over here that I have previously run. You can ignore this error. I seem to get this error when I run it, but it still works. So what is all this? If you're not familiar with PowerShell, PowerShell is like the command prompt in Windows on steroids in a simplified form. It just allows you to run way more advanced commands on your computer. And saves you some time and effort in the long run. So what we actually have is these lines of code. Now I have 2 lines to disable and 2 lines to enable because I have 2 controllers. I will leave this line in the description of the video so you can copy and paste it. All you need to do is put it into a text file and then just rename it PS1. Now I'm going to run this again and then I will splice in some video of my actual system and what happens. Essentially what it does is disable the 2 USB devices which are the fan hubs. It just waits for a couple of seconds to make sure that it has a moment to disable, and then it enables them again. I've then linked this to the logon event in Windows, so every time I log on this runs, it resets my fans and it fixes everything, and I don't have to think about anything, which is really nice because this problem is a right pain in the ass, and if your fans are stuck in RGB puke mode, which is really bright and really distracting, you're just going to want to take the fans out eventually. So just going to let that run. You'll see how long it takes. So currently the fans have defaulted back to rainbow mode. And then everything is back up and running. Now, if my fans in this case were not being, or the controllers were not being detected, that would fix them, and that's about how long it would take to run, which is much quicker than going into Device Manager, finding the device, manually doing this every time, because you'll do it twice. By the time you do it the third time, you're really not going to want to have to keep doing that, and you're probably going to just want to throw rocks at your fans. So this is the best solution that I came up with. What it actually does, I'll use this because it's easy to read. It disables the PnP device, which is essentially the USB device, and then you reference it by this, the instance ID. This is the important bit, guys. Depending on your motherboard, depending on the controller, this bit here will differ for you. So you need to find this for yourself. The way you do that is you go back into Device Manager, you go to the properties of your device, you click on Details, and under Properties you click on Hardware IDs, and you'll see here this looks like what we have over here. I think this is a slightly different controller, but basically the one that has the error on it, you want to get this value here and you want to put it here in your line of code, and then you just repeat. And all you're basically doing is disabling and then enabling. If you only have one controller, you're only going to need one disable and one enable. I have two, so I have 2 lines, and that's about it. Then we go to Windows Task Scheduler. So in Windows Task Scheduler, I've created a task, and that references this PowerShell file down here. And this is what I've created over here. And it just goes to whatever location you set it to. So you basically just give it a name. The trigger here is on unlock. So whenever I unlock the computer, which is generally when I'm coming back from the computer being in standby, there's a whole bunch of different triggers that you can put here. You can put it at log on, you can have multiple triggers, see what works for you best. For me, a workstation unlock seemed to do the job. Actions is basically just to run this script. Conditions, yeah, pretty much just left as default. Now, the one thing that is important with this is when you're creating it, is what it runs as. So if you go into properties here, you'll notice here under security options, it's running as system. This particular bit of PowerShell code doesn't like to run as a normal user. It doesn't like to give normal users access to USB devices, so it needs to run as admin. In this case, I've set it to run as system, just so there's absolutely nothing to get in the way. I could go into this more, but I'm trying to keep this brief, so my advice is set it to run as system, and yeah, have less problems. So that's basically how I did it, so I don't have to run this every time I log in or open up Device Manager and click here and then go to Properties, and it's a pain in the ass and was pretty much driving me nuts. So that's basically the fix, guys. As I said, I will leave this in the description, just the cut down version of the one disable, but please remember you need to change this by getting the ID from the device that's failing, or else it will not work. It's dependent on which port you have it plugged into your motherboard, how your motherboard addresses it and names it. So it's going to be different for everyone. You just need to find out which one is failing for you and just put the name of it in there. Alright guys, that should be about it. I'll come back and check comments and questions in the video, in the comments below. Yeah, let me know if this works for you, and hopefully it explains what's going on, because I trawled forums going back years. It's a common problem, but no one really seems to have a particularly good fix, especially on AMD chipset systems. Okay, thanks guys, bye.